Hello all. I am going to go over trying to put the Rought Country hidden winch mounting plate into the 2008 Chevy Suburban. It is not listed as a vehicle for the plate, but it's listed for the trucks of the same year. So let's get to it. First step, remove the front of the Suburban so that we can have access to the area where the winch mounts. This could probably, if the winch fits, it could probably go on without removing the front. There's so much room under the front of this thing. But I'm going to remove it so I can see if it's going to fit or not. I don't want to modify the plate. If it's a major modification, I'll just make my own. But if it's minor, it will work. And it will work, then we will show you how to do it. Step number one. We remove the bolts, total 6 bolts, number 10 from the front cap. And step number 2 is take out 2 number 7s, one on top and one way down on the bottom, and then these push pins, 2 of those. And then you can pull this part of the bumper off. Step number 3, we'll be doing the same on the other side. And step number 4 is removing 6 number 7s. I'm not sure if you can see them across the bottom, right under here. 3 on each side. And the last step to get the cowling off would be to remove any wires that you have installed or that are installed for your lights, or in my case, my camera. Camera cable there, disconnected, and your lights underneath need to be disconnected. And wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. Foam and everything off. My light on this side was already disconnected. Must have got hit by a rock or something, because it's just bare wires. That's why that one wasn't working. Another thing for me to fix. Alrighty, now that I have the front end off, I have the plate in its mocked up location. And you can see there's really only 1 bolt on that side. And there's really 2 bolts on that side. And this lip right here is going to have to be pounded flat or ground off. Either one will work. It's part of the bracket for the bumper. It's actually welded on. This is a weld right here and down over here. But you take a grinder to that lip, which looks like it's not structural, just simply an aid in putting it on, I believe. It goes all the way around on it, and it's much bigger up on top, up in this area, but it cuts down. It just has a little teeny lip there, so either pounding that flat or grinding it off, whichever is going to be easier. Width-wise, it fits okay. It's got plenty of room in the bolt holes to go all the way out once I remove that lip. And the weld and the bracket itself are above. My air conditioner running in the background because it's hot. Above where they have a bracket sticking out there. Alright, I put the bumper back on. All right, I put the bumper back on. Not sure it was recording when I was first talking. And I will slide underneath and see where she sits. So if I look, I don't know if you could tell, that bracket, I'm about a half inch away. So it should actually go forward a little bit if I want to meet my plastic. I'm trying to get where I'm at. So you can see the black and the plastic. So the thing is, I can push it back. I just can push it back all the way. I can bolt right up to that. So that's right where I want it to be. Let me get a shot from the side here. See that bracket is sitting right at the top, the flange where the license plate goes. So I should put a hot pokers around it so it makes it go through. This isn't pushed in all the way, but that will basically put my opening right here, which is exactly where I want it. All right. So at this point in time, I have my surgery shroud set up. No, it's actually so that this air conditioner works better a little bit inside here. Let's see. So I marked that flange. I tried hitting it with a hammer. It moved a little bit, but it won't go what I need it to do. So what I'm going to do, I should use some kind of pointer here. As I get you sick again. What I'm going to do is take my grinder wheel and grind right up this line to the top and then over. And that will knock that little bit of a flange off. And then same thing on this side. You can see where the bracket, I marked with a marker. And same thing, I'm going to grind right up this line to the top and then over to knock that little piece of flange off. At that point, I will be able to bolt everything up using the two existing bolts here and a single bolt here, and then bolt the winch mount in and try and get it so that my winch sits in the right place, and then mark the holes that will be those two that are on the left at an angle. This is upside down, actually laid down flat pretty much. The bottom two holes there are going to be those two holes there. And the other two holes I'm going to drill into my housing here and either get a bracket that goes all the way through or slide a nut plate up in there. Probably slide a nut plate up in there. Set my weld up. And then get some bolts because they don't come with a kit. They assume you already have them from your pickup truck front end. I think it'd be kind of fun to take a pickup truck front end and glue it onto the front of this Suburban because it looks like it could be done. Oh, another project for the future. Alright, back again. So, I use the old grinder and a hammer to basically grind that little flange off. And then also where the weld protruded past flush, which right here, in the area that was marked, and then down below on that one, watch the shadow, and then everything's flush. So that side's ready to bolt on. And the same thing over here. That was a little bit more difficult because I had the grinder going the wrong direction. Then I figured out how to turn the grinder, and then it was okay. So that one and the welds as well, right here, ground them flush, and then that one flush. Just took a little nib off them, a little bite, and then that's done. So if you look on the back of these flanges, they already have a protrusion welded in place. So that will cover those two bottom holes below this piece of metal. Now I will probably either put another piece of metal over here, maybe tack weld it on, or something, or just put a washer between the plates, or just crank the living daylights out of them, because for the most part it's in the right spot. And same on this side. I will drill another hole over here after I figure out where everything's going to line up. So far so good and easy. So while I've got my brackets bolted on with at least one bolt, one on that side and two on that side, I can now go to the effort of trying to match or put the winch on the plate and make sure that my hole that I've cut out in the plastic here clears it. I'm pretty sure it will, measurement wise. It will clear. I might, should be enough room to not have to hit this part back here. And I'm all ready to mark those holes, but I wanted to see how much clearance I had before I did that, because I might elongate the holes here and here. Well, actually just this one, because it's original. And those I have to drill, I don't need to elongate them, so just this one would elongate, and then those two will elongate. Drop in the winch maybe a ½ inch if I need to. But I got to this point and I started to put the winch onto the plate, and it has a problem. The Badland Apex 12,000 winch does not sit down. It actually, rope's going to clear, but it's sitting in the back but not the front. That's because the housing is hitting right there. So I've got to grind off a little bit of that edge to get that to fit flat. So once I do that, I'm committed to using this hardware. And I think so far I'm very pleased with the hardware. So I'm most likely going to go ahead and make this modification to clear it. Alright, so I got the Badland in place. I will add a extension for that handle so I can turn it from above, which was part of the kit. The connection, fortunately, this is a wireless box, so once I have it wired, I won't need to connect to this port that's on the side here. But if I do need to get there, there's room underneath. And I may look at taking that connector that's in there and relocating it up underneath. Not sure if I need to do that. The Badland came with a relocation kit for the whole unit, but I really have no, for the whole solenoid unit, I really have no location where I could put it unless it's impeding the airway, so I'd rather not that happen. There's no room under my hood that I can figure out where that goes, so that's in. It's tightened up on some of the bolts. Harnesses is not in or anything, but that foam will sit on top of this. Good afternoon. It's another day working on this. I worked, I think, maybe a total of 3.5, 4 hours yesterday on it. And ended up having to take it out to, which is what I was planning on doing. This Badland winch is a little bigger than the footprint's the same, but it's a little bit taller and a little bit wider than the one from Rought Country. But it also has a wireless feature, so that's why I went with this one over the Rought Country. And you need to have the brackets on the side down here when you put it in, because it's just too long and you can't put it in with the brackets on, or at least not easy. Maybe if I took the bumper off it would go on, but decided not to do that. Pulled it down, undid the bolts, and I was going to use this D-ring. D-ring? That's not a D-ring. It's a whatever that thing's called. To build a nut plate for the back and attach it to this. And so I went this morning, pulled out that one, which has the bolt. I put this in just for alignment, but it has the bolt that goes in from the passenger side, and this one has the bolt that comes in from this side, so I had to take both of those bolts out to drop the thing. I didn't take that recovery hook, that's what it is, out from my frame after I disconnected it, which is down there, and I had to run to the barn and stable where I board my horse, because I was getting my horse trimmed today, and I believe that hook is now laying on the side of the road between here and there, and I've driven it and I cannot find it. So my next upgrade, I could still get everything ready, but my next upgrade is going to be putting the D-ring shackle conversion. So I take these things off, or I don't take them off, they're already off, but I replace them with a shackle D-ring conversion from Rought Country. So I ordered that. It's on its way. Another 90 bucks into the project. But I was planning on doing that anyway. It just makes it a little bit easier to do it now before I put it together. So now I will just concentrate on those marking and putting in the holes on the frame so that we can get this bolted in. All right, well, I got the holes drilled on that side, passenger side, and also on the driver's side. All lines up, everything goes together. Now I just have to design some nut plates, or just plain put nuts on the back. I shall decide later. And good afternoon. We're at our next stage. Last time I showed you the holes I drilled. This time I painted the holes. Not that I really need to. This is Arizona. You don't need to paint anything. Everything will be fine. And the bolts fit in. And the back one there, which has kind of a step, I don't know if you see, I put a washer on. Same thickness as their spacer. See that down in there? And this is the same way. See the washer down inside there. So the nuts are on the back, fairly easy to do. You can reach up in here. I'll be able to show it because it's so dark, but it's a line to line, back practically with a bracket that holds the bumper, but it does go in. And putting the bottom 2 bolts in for alignment until my tow hooks that were on there, since I'm missing one now somewhere on the road, is getting replaced with a shackle holder for 2007 to 14 Silverado, which basically has the same frame as this one, even though their website says they don't fit. They do, but my understanding is all you have to do is take off the bumper, which hits the here and here, install them, and then put the bumper back on. So I'm going to be held up until Monday on that, but today's Saturday. I'll get this all bolted in except for the back bolts. They'll just be in there for clearance, or the bottom bolt. All right, at this point I've got it mounted, all the bolts tightened. I will still have to remove the one and get another one for that, so I can put in the D-hook holder conversion there. I left this one in only because then the bolts, I was sure they were going to line up. All the bolts tightened, nuts tightened, Loctite on them, even though they were locking nuts. Everything fits, no clearance problem. I cleaned up a little bit more down in this area to make a little bit more clearance, and then painted it. I did a little more on that side, and slid the winch as far forward as possible. After I put the screws in the bottom of it, tightened it up. I should probably turn that thing off while I'm doing this. So I'm nearly there. I'm wait until my other parts come in before I go any further. The bumper's underneath, but it looks like everything's going to work just fine. No problems. If you didn't have a Badland, if you went with the Rought Country winch 12,000, it would fit. It's an inch shorter. You wouldn't even need to cut right here like I've done here. The Rought Country 12,000 is an inch shorter. It's got rounded sides on it, and this plate was actually made for it. So it fits on there with no issues. The only issue it has is it doesn't have a wireless option. Getting to this after it's all put together will be kind of tough, but on the Badland ones, it's wireless, so it shouldn't be a problem for me. If you go with the Rought Country one, the one I saw relocated the connector. Now this whole top bracket I could relocate somewhere else, but I can't find a place for it. Not with a dual battery setup I've got. Maybe I could mount it over there or something, but I like it on top. I can make it work on top. That was my plan. The wiring will go around back and up to the battery, and should be no issues. I'll be back a little bit later. Here we go. I back up a little bit so I can move this around. Hopefully this time I won't get anybody sick, although with a photo it's tough to get sick. So I got the winch installed, all bolted and torqued up. That worked out really well. That looking in there, you can see how everything is. That's what I like when I'm watching videos. It shows me everything that I've done or will do. All the bolts are torqued up. These will come back out, the two on the bottom here, because the one there and the other hole is going to be for these. Pick these up. Rought Country sent me these. They will install, and then I'll have my shackle adapters put in place for my D-rings, which are in this package here. The other thing I've got ready is I've got this cut out, ready and marked. I painted the front of that and transferred it to the front of this, or back of this, so that I could cut it out. And then I drew around where I could figure out where everything went. And I'm only going to start with a little hole, make sure I don't overcut, because I want this to go on the front of here with this plastic in between. At least that's the plan. And as for my controlling the winch, especially that handle right there, Rought Country sends this, but it won't fit this handle. It's made for theirs. It's also too tall for the Suburban, so I elected not to use this. I could have cut it down and widened the end there so that it fit over that one, but I elected not to use it. Came up with what I think is a better way, is I cut this foam out right there. I've also cut part of the plastic out there, as you can see where the foam goes, so I can get my hand in. And then on the, this is the back side of the grill, I've put on these wire ties up here, and this opens up and I can reach in and make the change. I'm going to pull that back down and it sits right back in place. I will put some Velcro down here just to make sure it doesn't come off, or some other type of fastening mechanism. But with a foam cutaway like that and a little plastic cutaway like that, I can actually reach in, and I'll show you that later, and make that change from engage to disengage. Engage. So now I'm going to put on the shackle conversion kit, and I will start you after that. And I'm back, and the shackle adapters are in place. 2 bolts on one side. That one gets left out. So there's only 3 bolts holding that side of the winch plate, which is what they intended. And I have 4 bolts over there. And the other shackle over there. Ta-da! Now I'll put the bumpers and stuff on. Grinding time. So the bolts that go and hold the bumper on stick through and just touch those new shackles. No wonder they said they wouldn't fit. I knew there was a problem. I actually got this one all the way down, and you can see on the end of it, it's a little bit polished where it hit the shackle. So I grind a little bit off. It looks like we'd stick out about 1/4 of an inch anyway, so it shouldn't be a problem. Hopefully I won't light anything on fire while I'm doing this. All right. So I trim my little bolt there. Go down here. And you can see now that it misses. You can actually see where it hit before. So threads still come through. That makes it a good fastener. Same on that side. That's a little closer, but it does not touch. And they are torqued down. So I am all set. It would be nice if they tried to make them come out the hole that they made in the thing, but the bumpers aren't square. They're centered. They're bolted near the outside, so I can only do with what I got. Well, here we are again. And I've got the front on. Actually working out pretty good. Everything's bolted up. Switch it to further away. Looks nice. Bumper on. Come down here and see if there's enough light to show. What I cut on there was not as good as I would have liked. And had to take off the little molding pieces around there and left the top part on. Probably fall off eventually. But those little molding pieces hit the frame of the winch mount. So they had to go. See my access point over here screw down in there. If it switches to darkness, see, you can get to the handle, and it works. I'm still eventually gonna put this on magnets or Velcro so it stays up. But that is truly a hidden winch. Truly. Now I gotta get the winch bolted through there. Well, let's start. Everything's back together, on and looking like normal. If you weren't looking for it, you probably would not know there was a hidden winch. And it is hidden. You can see I've got everything in and hanging. I did have to remove the inserts that are in here. And I did cut a little low on that one. But it kind of had to go as a little bit outside towards the bottom in order to clear and move forward. There's the winch installed. And I'd like to hook onto that puppy just because less rattling. And under the hood I just wired to the battery. I did not put in a switch. I will try and find a better switch than what came with this one. This thing right here, looks a little hokey. So I'll try and find a better one. Or a pluggy thing. But accessing the winch is a breeze. In through here and down the hole. Disengage. Engage. Oops, can't engage because it's got tension on it. So it's disengaged. It's got the access to the switches. I'll do a flashlight in there. So everything, easy access. Pull this back towards me and clicks in place. Ta-da. Looking good. Got my winch hidden away down there. And that's the Burby.